I worked night shift 911 dispatch in Gary, Indiana. People think dispatchers just answer phones. That's not what we do. We sit in a dim room for 12 hours, listening to people on the worst night of their lives. We stay calm while someone screams that their husband isn't breathing. We hear gunshots through a phone speaker. We tell people to hide. You learn to separate yourself from it. If you don't, you don't last. I lasted 4 years. Until October 13th. 3:14 a.m. There's something about that hour. Between 3 and 4, your body dips. Reaction time slows. We're trained on it. That's when mistakes happen. That night I was alone on the floor. Supervisor stepped out for a smoke, 2 empty consoles glowing beside me. Then a line lit up. No caller ID. That's unusual, but not impossible. What was impossible? There was no system trace. No location data trying to load. No carrier info. Just a blinking line. I answered. 911. What's your emergency? Breathing, not panicked, slow, measured, like someone trying to stay quiet. I asked for the location. Immediate response. 1424 West 5th Avenue. I started typing. Halfway through, my fingers stopped. That's my address. I didn't react. You don't react. You verify. Repeat the address. He did. Same tone. Same pacing. Then he said something that made my throat tighten. You're in the hallway. I didn't respond. He continued. There's a vent near the floor on the left. It rattles when the heat turns on. I felt my chest tighten. That's correct, I said carefully. What's happening there? Pause. Then, he doesn't know I'm here yet. My mind started running scenarios. Mental health episode. Prank. Swatting setup. Who doesn't know? I asked. The word landed flat. Calm. Observational. I checked the system clock. 3:14 a.m. Still. No seconds ticking. Just 3:14. I glanced at the call timer. It wasn't running. But I was hearing him. The waveform monitor showed audio. But there was no active call displayed. That has never happened in my career. Sir? I said, keeping my voice steady. Are you inside the residence? Yes. Are you armed? Silence. Then, he's still sitting down. My stomach dropped. You haven't turned around yet. My body went cold. Slowly. Against my better judgment, I turned. The dispatch floor was empty. But in the reflection of my dark monitor screen, for a split second, there was a shape behind my chair. Tall. Close. I blinked. Nothing. The caller inhaled sharply. He saw it. Who saw what? I asked. But my voice didn't sound like mine anymore. You're not supposed to turn around that early. A cold ripple moved through me. Sir, what is your name? Long pause. Leo. That's my name. Same pronunciation. Same clipped way I say it. I felt sweat collect under my headset. You're still breathing, he whispered. That's good. Good for what? For this version, my pulse started hammering. Then, I heard it. Through the phone. Footsteps, hard sole on tile. Behind him, fast. He gasped. Then a loud impact. Like a body hitting the floor, air knocked out of lungs. And in the background, I heard my own voice scream. Not through my headset, through the caller's end. My voice, screaming. Then silence. The line went dead. The system clock flipped. 3:15 a.m. The call vanished. No record. No trace. Supervisor came back 2 minutes later and asked why I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I asked him to check the logs. Nothing. No incoming calls for 15 minutes. I showed him the address I wrote down. He frowned. That property burned down in the 70s, he said. It's an empty lot. I drove home shaking. My house was there. Everything looked normal. But when I stepped inside, the hallway vent was new, shinier, like it had been replaced recently. I don't remember replacing it. At 3:14 a.m., my cell phone rang. Private number. I didn't answer. It rang exactly 30 seconds. Stopped. 2 minutes later. Again, 30 seconds. Stopped. On the third night, I answered. I didn't say anything. I just listened. Breathing. slow, measured. Then my voice spoke. Quiet. Close. You turned around too soon. My hand went numb. I tried to warn you, it continued. I couldn't speak. Then, I don't think he likes when you notice. A faint sound came through. Footsteps. Behind the caller. Behind me. I didn't want to look, but I did. Slowly. The hallway behind me was dark. Empty. My phone crackled. He's closer this time. The line went dead. The clock on my stove read 3:14. It didn't change for 3 full minutes. I unplugged it. The microwave clock across the room still said 3:14. Battery-powered wall clock. 3:14. All frozen. Then, 3:15. Everything resumed. I haven't answered since. But every night at 3:14, something small changes. A chair slightly moved. A door not fully closed. The hallway light flickering once. Last night, the dispatch center called my personal phone. I don't work nights anymore. The building was closed for maintenance. The caller ID said, City Communications. I let it ring. 30 seconds. Stopped. 2 minutes later, again. I don't know which version of me called that first night. I don't know what was standing behind him. But I know one thing. Every time I answer, the breathing sounds closer. And last night, when the phone rang, it was already on speaker, and I heard breathing. Before it even started ringing. It's 3:13 right now. I'm writing this before it changes. If your phone ever rings at 3:14 from a private number, don't verify the address, don't turn around, and whatever you do, don't answer, because if the voice sounds like yours, it probably is. And something is standing behind the version of you that decides to pick up. My name's Caleb. I'm from Philly. Last summer I took 3 days off work and went hiking alone in Virginia, Blue Ridge section of the Appalachian Trail. Not the busy areas. I specifically chose a stretch that had almost no traffic. I wanted quiet. I got it. The first 2 days were normal. Saw one older couple heading southbound. That was it. On the third day, I hadn't seen another person in hours, and that's when I found the shack. It wasn't some horror movie cabin in the middle of nowhere. It looked like an old forestry outpost. Probably abandoned decades ago. Half-rotted wood. Windows boarded from inside. No visible path leading to it. It wasn't marked on my map. That should have been my first red flag. The second was the flyers. Dozens of missing person posters nailed along the front railing. They weren't arranged neatly. They overlapped each other. Some were stapled on top of older ones. The ink on a few had almost faded out completely. At first I thought it was just a memorial spot. People go missing in those mountains every year. Then I saw my face. It wasn't blurry. It wasn't distorted. It was a clear photo of me. Same haircut. Same beard. Same jacket I was wearing. The date at the bottom said October 12th, 1996. I was 6 in 1996. And the photo was me at 28. Not younger, not different. Exactly how I looked standing there. I remember feeling confused more than scared. Like my brain was trying to find a rational explanation. Maybe someone I knew was messing with me. Some kind of elaborate prank. Then I started recognizing other faces. A guy I went to college with. My ex-girlfriend from 2 years ago. A barista from the coffee shop near my apartment. All listed as missing. Different years. Different decades. But the photos showed them as they look right now. Not how they looked when they supposedly disappeared. That's when I realized something else. The dirt around the building was untouched. No footprints. Not even mine. I looked behind me. There were no tracks leading up from the trail. It was like I hadn't walked there. That's when I heard someone clear their throat. Behind me, I turned slowly. There was a man standing about 40 feet back in the trees. Same height as me. Same build. Wearing hiking gear. But not mine. Different jacket. Different pack. He looked normal. Too normal. Clean. Calm. Not sweating, like he hadn't been hiking at all. "You're off trail," he said. His voice wasn't threatening. It was matter of fact. I told him I must have drifted. He glanced toward the shack, then back at me. "You're not supposed to be here yet. That sentence hit me wrong." "Yet?" I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he said, "You should head back to the lot. It'll be dark soon." It was barely past 3 p.m. Plenty of daylight left. I looked back at the flyers. When I looked again at mine, the date had changed. I swear to God it had. Now it said October 12th, 2024. Tomorrow. I stepped closer to check. The paper felt old, not freshly printed, like it had been there for months. When I turned back toward the man, he was closer, maybe 20 feet away now. I hadn't heard him move. "I wouldn't touch those," he said calmly. My heart started pounding. "Who put these up?" I asked. He studied me for a second. Then, he said something I haven't been able to stop thinking about since. Sometimes people don't come back the same. He didn't say it like a warning. He said it like a fact. "Accidents happen out here," he continued. "Falls. Exposure. Animals. Sometimes it's easier for everyone if the right version makes it home." I didn't fully understand what he meant. But my stomach dropped. "The right version?" I asked. He gave the smallest smile. "People don't always notice the difference." I took a step back. He didn't move this time. He just watched me. "You should head back," he repeated. I didn't argue. I walked, didn't run, didn't look back. When I reached the trail again, I checked the ground. My footprints were there now, clear as day. I got back to the parking lot around dusk. My car was untouched. But there was another vehicle I didn't remember seeing before. Black SUV. Engine off. Windows tinted. I couldn't see inside. As I unlocked my car, I felt eyes on me. When I looked back toward the woods, I saw someone standing near the tree line. Not the same guy. Different build. But watching. Phone held up. Like recording. I left immediately. Didn't stop driving until I hit the highway. That night, back in my apartment in Philly, I unpacked my gear. In the side pocket of my backpack was a folded piece of paper. Old. Yellowed. Brittle. It was my missing poster. The date said October 12th, 2024. Tomorrow. At the bottom, under the photo, someone had written in pen, "Recovered? I didn't sleep." The next morning, I checked my social media. Nothing unusual, except one thing. There was a photo posted to my account at 3:17 a.m. A picture of the Blue Ridge Mountains at sunset. Caption: "Made it. I didn't take that photo." I checked my phone's camera roll. The image was there. Time-stamped 7:42 p.m. while I was driving on I-81. I've started noticing other small things. My mom mentioned a conversation we had last month that I don't remember. A coworker said I've seemed calmer, more focused, like something settled. And sometimes, when I catch my reflection in a dark window, there's this brief moment where I don't recognize the expression. It looks satisfied, like something worked. I keep thinking about what that man said. Sometimes it's easier if the right version makes it home. I don't know what happened in those woods. I don't know if I was supposed to disappear, or if I did. But every now and then, I get this feeling that I didn't leave alone. And if there really are versions, if someone decides which one comes back, I hope they picked the right one. Because lately, I'm not completely sure I'm the original. My name's Ryan. I'm from Pittsburgh. Last October, I was short on cash, not I can't order takeout short. I mean rent's due, and I'm doing math at 2 a.m. short. A guy at work told me his cousin knew someone down in West Virginia who needed a house sitter for a long weekend. 3 nights, $2,000, no pets, no chores, just be there. I should have walked away right there. The house was in Mason County, about 30 minutes outside Point Pleasant. Once you leave town, it's just trees, no streetlights, no neighbors, no signal. By the time I pulled into the driveway, my phone was basically useless. The house didn't look abandoned. It looked maintained. Grass cut, porch swept, windows clean. Too clean, like someone wanted it to look normal. The owner's name was Travis, late 30s. Soft voice. Didn't make eye contact much. Didn't shake my hand either. Just handed me the keys and said, "Cell service drops at night sometimes. Don't freak out." Then he added, "If you hear stuff after midnight, it's just the house." I laughed a little. He didn't. Inside felt wrong immediately. Not messy, not dirty, just staged. No family photos, no mail, no clutter. The fridge had 2 bottles of water, and condiments lined up like a display. It looked like a house pretending to be lived in. First night was quiet. Too quiet. No Wi-Fi, no TV. Just the hum of the fridge, and wind outside. At exactly 12:43 a.m., I heard a thud upstairs. Not loud, just heavy, like something being set down. I sat up and listened. Nothing. I told myself old houses shift. I laid back down. Second night, 12:43 a.m. footsteps. Slow, even. Back and forth, directly above the living room, not random, not creaking, pacing. I muted everything. They kept going. So I went upstairs. 3 bedrooms. Empty. Closets empty. Windows locked. The second I stepped into the hallway, the footsteps stopped, like whoever it was knew I was there. That's when I noticed something. The hallway felt narrow. Too narrow for the layout downstairs. Like the walls were thicker than they should have been. I didn't say it out loud, but something wasn't right. Next morning, I started looking. Really looking. That's when I found the panel. In the laundry room, painted the same color as the wall. No knob. Just a small recessed pull. My hand hesitated for a second. Then I opened it, and my stomach dropped. There was a space inside the walls, narrow, but tall enough to stand. Wood planks laid down like a walkway, and vents cut into the drywall. From inside the house, they looked normal. From inside the wall, they were peepholes. Perfect view into the living room, the kitchen, the bedrooms. Then I saw the camera mounts. Fresh. Dust disturbed around them, like something had just been removed. Scratched into one of the studs was a number. #12. Just that. Number 12. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. It was Travis. "How's it going?" he asked. I said the house was fine. He paused. Then he said, "You find anything interesting?" My heart dropped. "You got someone living in the walls?" I asked. He chuckled. "Relax," he said. "Nobody's there right now." Right now. "How many people have done this?" I asked. "You're doing good," he said. "Some folks start snooping. I'm leaving." "You can," he replied calmly. "But that won't change anything." Click. That night I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch, all the lights on. At 12:43 a.m., I heard it again. Not upstairs. Inside the wall behind me, a slow shift of weight. Fabric brushing drywall. It moved along the wall, stopped directly behind the couch. The drywall creaked, like someone leaning in, listening. I didn't move. I didn't turn my head. Because I knew. If I looked up, I might see an eye behind that vent. After a minute, it moved away. I grabbed my keys and left. As I pulled out of the driveway, I glanced at the second floor window, and I saw movement behind the glass, like someone stepped back too fast. A week later, I got a padded envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a flash drive. There were folders labeled #8, #9, #11. Each one was footage. Different people, sleeping in that house. Sitting on that couch, unaware. Then I clicked #12. It was me. First night, second night, and the third night, timestamp 12:44 a.m. The camera view was from inside the wall, behind the couch. You can see me sitting there, and you can hear breathing. Not mine, close to the microphone. Then the camera moves slightly forward, like someone leaning in. The last 5 seconds, you hear a whisper. Human, right before the clip cuts. I went to the police. They checked the property, said they found nothing. No hidden passage, no cameras, nothing. A week later, another envelope showed up. Inside was a photo. Me, in my Pittsburgh apartment, standing in my kitchen, taken from behind. Under it was a note. 4 words. Quit making it messy, I moved 2 weeks later. Changed my number. Changed everything. But I still catch myself doing this thing. Whenever I'm alone in a room, I glance at the corners near the ceiling, just to make sure there isn't a vent. I didn't notice. So if someone offers you easy money to watch a remote house for a weekend, don't do it. Because you're not guarding the house. You're not there to keep anyone out. You're there so someone can watch what you do. When you think you're alone. And if you're unlucky, you don't get paid, you get numbered. My name's Sierra. At least that's what I used to call myself. Last winter, I took a gig house sitting on Mercer Island, just outside Seattle. If you don't know Mercer Island, it's one of those ritzy suburbs where the houses are stupid expensive and people pay to be unreachable, lakefront views included. Rich folks, big glass windows, 0-foot traffic after dark. I took the gig because I needed dough. Fast. Rent was due, car was shot, and I was barely scraping by. The property manager met me at the front gate, polite, buttoned-up guy in a beanie, and handed me the keys. He said, "Just follow the rules. Don't change anything. Don't rearrange the place. And if you start feeling weird, just don't." He didn't joke. He wasn't kidding. First night was weirdly normal. Lights flicked on when I walked into rooms. Thermostat kept the joint at a stupid perfect temperature. No lag, no glitch. But it felt too tidy, like someone had dusted the air, not the shelves. By the second night, I noticed something strange. I'd wake up freezing cold, like I'd sweat half the blanket away, yet the thermostat claimed the house was a steady 72 degrees. That's when I realized something wasn't responding to me. It was predicting me. That shit gets under your skin. By day 3, I knew something was off. The place started anticipating what I would do before I even did it. Like every time I thought about grabbing a snack, the fridge would light up a tray of food I didn't choose. And every time I hesitated before turning down the hallway, the lights eased on before I even reached for the switch. That's when I started doubting myself. Like maybe I was losing it. Then came the mirrors. Not out of place mirrors, normal wall mirrors, but a freaky lag started happening. I'd move, blink, and my reflection would stay a tiny fraction behind the real me. Not long enough to screenshot. Not dramatic. Just wrong. So one afternoon I tested it. I took a fast step to the side. My reflection stayed still for a beat, then mirrored me late, slower, like it was catching up. And it wasn't just mirroring me, it was studying me. That's when I stopped standing in front of mirrors altogether. Then came the memory stuff. It started slow, tiny things at first. I'd stare at my phone trying to remember my childhood dog's name and blank. I could see the memories, the bowl, the backyard, but the name was gone in the fog. At first I shrugged it off. Stress, right? Then I caught myself midday staring at nothing, like I was disconnected from my own thoughts. And one morning I woke up and realized I didn't remember the last text I sent my sister. Just nothing. On evening 4 I heard laughter. Not loud, not creepy cartoon shit, just laughter. My laughter, but softer, weirder, practiced. Like someone had watched my voice patterns and smoothed them out. Right then, I knew I wasn't alone in that house. Not in the someone hiding in a closet way, more like someone had been living in my head. Then the doors began to stick. Not lock, not shutter, just not responding when I pulled on them. Front door, won't budge. Back door, locked. No windows openable, no screens popped. Something had changed the house, not physically. Mentally. It had rewritten the rules. I went down to the basement one afternoon, no memory of opening the door, just standing at the bottom of the stairs like I'd been told to get there. And that's when I found files. Not fancy tech talk, just handwritten notebooks tacked to the wall. Every page was the same pattern. Week 1. Behavior before conditioning. Behavior after conditioning. Week 2. Behavior before conditioning. Behavior after conditioning. Week 3. Behavior before conditioning. Behavior after conditioning. End at the bottom of every page. Calibrated for response. My initials were in the newest set. My handwriting, but not quite mine. Sharper. Smoother. Like someone taught me how to write again. I freaked. Finally packed that night, grabbed the keys, walked out the front door, and something snapped. The lights died. No hum, no flicker, just silence. The house knew I was about to leave. And it didn't want me to. I pulled onto the driveway, walked up to my car. That's when I saw movement. At the edge of the yard, not a person, not exactly, just a shape. It wasn't running, just watching. Still. Eyes on me. I didn't look back as I drove off. Not once. Back in my tiny apartment in Seattle, no tech, no gadgets, no sensors, I still get flashes. Sometimes I'll be brushing my teeth and I'll say something out loud, and the words don't feel like mine. Other times, I walk into a room and hear this tiny voice in my head, calm as hell, saying something like, "Door's locked. Just chill. I know I'm safe." But part of me wonders, maybe that house wasn't conditioning me. Maybe it was training me. Maybe it was teaching me how to behave better. And now that I'm back in civilization, cameras, screens, phones and all, maybe I still carry it in me. Because sometimes, just for a heartbeat, when no one's watching, I catch myself smiling at nothing. Perfectly calm, perfectly measured, and I don't even realize why. Final takeaway. If someone offers you a stupid high paycheck to watch a big lonely house near Seattle, don't assume it's just a quiet weekend. Because sometimes the house isn't watching you because you're there, it's watching because you're predictable. And that's how people get trained, not scared. If you made it through all 4 stories, you're officially part of Nightmare Reads. Hit subscribe if you don't scare easy, and tell me in the comments which story felt the most real.